It is Thursday, the 29th of October. It is episode number 45, the Pedro Martinez episode. I'd love to spend an entire show just talking about Pedro. How great he was, how much of an event Fenway Park was when he pitched back in the day, how I had tickets to see him versus the Yankees in the monster seats, only to have him get scratched for Casey Fossum. But also to talk about how much I've enjoyed Pedro and envy retired Pedro. Dude was like 165 soaking wet when he played, and he's got to be at least 2 bills at this point, no? And just look at that wonderfully chubby face of his. I love him. And you should too. This is Complaints and Observations. Hit the shitty intro.
The greatest podcast hosted by someone who knows so precious little about almost everything. A journey into the mediocre mind of an exceptionally average person. This is Complaints and Observations with Dave LaPointe.
Wouldn't you like to get away?
Bad guy in a little coat.
Stupid thing.
Who the hell is Dave LaPointe?
The difference in sound quality between my actual show and the intro is astounding. It's astounding. And honestly, that used to be one of the hallmarks of the program was the wonderful sound quality. Well, now we've moved and I have to broadcast in a fucking wide open empty basement. Ugh, not good. So yesterday my foreman for the project here, the GC, my brother Jack came by and we inspected the structural integrity of the shed that I'm hoping to turn into a usable space, not only for the pod but just for general gatherings that I really don't want to have, and having people over, which I don't want people over. It's like but there's a lot of things at play here, and it's going to be a lot of time and a lot of money. So unless I decide to scrap this whole thing, which again, I have fun doing this, so I don't want to stop doing it. I might have to cut it back a bit. Not that you give a fuck, because nobody listens to the fucking show anyway. Thanks for coming, though. A few things to talk about today as well, and I do have an interview later on with a friend of mine, Rick McNair, whom I'm happy to dub for this particular venture as a sports aficionado. He says in the beginning of the interview that he likes to set the bar. He's setting the bar low for future guests, and you can't really set the bar any lower, I'm afraid, because this show is fucking terrible, huh? The serious sounding basis of the conversation that I'd given it was sport and its current role in society, which sounds horrifically fucking lame. It just turns out to be a couple of old heads spitballing about sports, but overall, an excellent conversation. I hope you enjoy it, and I hope that it sort of is the impetus for coming on my show. I hope to have another interview next week, which is great. I mean, 2 guests in a row here. Fire. I think Thursday will be the guest day. Monday's more the, Dave talks about dumb shit and then complains, which is, the name of the program. So, but listen, before that, I wanted to get to what I'm certain is on everyone's mind right now. And that's, what the fuck does Panera Bread think it's doing adding pizza to their menu? What? First of all, if you like Panera Bread, there's going to be some issues between us. Panera Bread, full disclosure, when I went back to get my degree in my mid-30s, when I was living with my parents, I spent way too much time at Panera Bread because it was the closest thing to a you know, reasonably quiet study area. Not that the house was, loud. It was just it wasn't conducive to learning, if you will, or doing schoolwork. So I spent a lot of time at Panera Bread. And it the smell of Panera, because every Panera smells the exact same way. It's like dirty floors and onions. They all smell the same. The food at Panera Bread is fucking disgusting. The sodium content of this pizza is probably going to be enough to kill a fucking rhinoceros, just like the rest of their shitty food. So why not add what everybody loves in the hopes of wiping out an entire fucking population? Because that really is probably the end goal for Panera. They're probably some weird fucking conspiracy group keeping kids in their basement and killing people with sodium content. But anyways, that's not really what's on everyone's mind. It was just that I read that and was appalled. I was appalled. It just doesn't make any fucking sense. Your name is Panera Bread. Make good bread. Your bread's terrific. Keep doing it. Just make good bread. What are you gonna make fucking pizza for? Ruining everything. Like all these fast food companies that keep coming out with shit that nobody wants. Like McDonald's, for example. My wife, who her job takes her to McDonald's. She works with McDonald's owners, so she comes home yesterday and she's going, "Oh, you want to try the new apple fritter?" Of course, I want to try it. Of course, of course, I want to try the apple fritter. I taste it, like this tastes really familiar. And she mentions Entenmann's, and boom, that's what it was. So Entenmann's is absolutely making the new quote unquote new breakfast pastries for McDonald's for the first time in a decade. Like, this is big fucking news. McDonald's makes burgers, fries. Psh, done. Stop fucking with everything else. Just like Dunkin'. It's not Dunkin' Donuts anymore. What do they add? A fucking ghost pepper donut? Who wants that shit? If it's more than one time purchase, which it won't be, you're not going to buy it all the time. Don't add it. I don't care if it's limited time. You're going to spend more money advertising it, making them, putting them on your fucking shelf. Like, your waste is going to be through the roof. Like, after week one, what sort of return can you expect on a ghost pepper donut? Yeah, I can't imagine you'd expect much of anything. Papa John's. Papa John's is doing their fucking damnedest to get away from Papa John. They came out with a cheeseburger pizza. Okay, big deal. Everybody's got a fucking cheeseburger pizza. Wendy's. Wendy's seems to be the only one that sort of understands that they're a shitty fast food company. Hey, we have breakfast now. Cool. They're gonna put out a new chicken sandwich because everyone's fucking copying Chick-fil-A. Everyone has to have the uh, you know, bun, pickle, chicken sandwich. Can't come up with your own shit. God forbid. KFC has a new sauce. I don't even know what it is. I just don't care. Fucking Panera Bread. Get the fuck out of here with pizza bullshit. Anyways, that was a rant that I wasn't anticipating. I was just gonna make a shitty Panera joke and move on. Very congested all of a sudden. My apologies. Um. So yeah, what most people are thinking about is probably the World Series. So excellent. Honestly, I thought it was an excellent series. Nobody fucking watched it. Lowest ratings ever. But I watched it. I enjoyed it. I thought it was pretty good. Um, the Rays put up a fight, as they're wont to do, and almost pulled it off. I shouldn't even say that. They came close. But the other night, comedy of errors. I should rename the podcast A Comedy of Errors because I find myself using that term often. It's not quite anywho levels, but it's up there. So, sixth inning rolls around and Blake Snell's dealing, just fucking dealing, and he's got 9 strikeouts from the 18 batters that he's faced at that particular point. And so 5 1/3 scoreless, gives up a base hit to the number 9 hitter, which was the second hit that he allowed with 1 out in the sixth. Cash comes out. And it's like, they're up 1-0. It's not like they're up 4-0, 5-0. There's no cushion there. So Cash comes out and does what he's done literally all season long, which is have a short leash for these starters. Now, Game 6 of the World Series should sort of take precedent over, a June Tuesday night game against fucking, I don't know, anybody, the Blue Jays. You need to manage different in different situations. Sure, the analytics are going to tell you, well, hey, third time through the lineup. However, the 1, 2, 3 hitters for the Dodgers were a collective 0 for 6 the first 2 times with 3 Ks. It was 6 Ks. I'm sorry. He was fucking dominant. Dominant. And he fucking gave him the hook. Like, how do you not? And here's the other thing, too. If you're looking at numbers, Mookie Betts has sucked against Blake Snell his entire career. Guess who's coming up next? Mookie fucking Betts. And so the guy that Cash brings in, Nick Anderson, had been trash all fucking series. And for not most of the postseason, but hadn't been good at all. And Anderson comes in, gives up a double, game tying wild pitch and an RBI ground out. Rays are down 2-1. Just like that. Blink of an eye. And the thing that you've heard is, well, analytics this, analytics that. It's like, well, okay. Well, the Dodgers are built the same way. No, not entirely. They operate on a different set of analytics, and those numbers all start with a dollar sign. When you have that much money to throw around, you can pretend that you give a fuck about analytics. And look, I'm sure you do to a point, but it ain't hard to fucking trade a bucket of balls for arguably the best or second best player in the game right now, and then give him a shit ton of money. You don't need analytics for that. You don't need analytics, to make trades that cost your team money because you got a fucking ton of it to spend. But what Cash did, and you'll hear a little bit about it in my talk with Rick later, is that he didn't manage. There was no managing going on at all. It was strictly using the numbers, and that's it. Speaking of which, I'm on ESPN the other day, and I'm looking at a stat that somebody put out about how major league starting pitchers fared the third time through the order versus the first and second time. Now, there are some differences, of course, and this stat encapsulates the last 5 seasons, including the playoffs. Batting average the first and second time through the order, 252. Third time, 269. Slugging 422 the first and second time. Third time, 463. Is there a difference? Absolutely. Absolutely. However, that does not encapsulate Game 6 of the fucking World Series with your ace on the hill who is dealing. Absolutely dealing. And it fucking screwed them. And one of the things, like, what happens if he leaves him in and then Betts comes up and fucking hits him? Sure. However, the numbers are in his favor that he's going to get Betts out. Corey Seager's next. He could fucking hit in that same ground ball, inning over. Then Justin Turner was next. Well, Justin Turner shouldn't even have been in the fucking game. Get to that in a second. But it was just a dumb move. Like, there's no way that Kevin Cash watched what Snell did through 5 1/3 and thought, "Oh yeah, I don't think he has the stuff to get through the lineup again." There, there is no fucking way. The little alarm in Kevin Cash's pocket probably went off from the GM who said, "Oh, time to take him out." Because no manager worth his fucking salt is gonna go and pull that guy after what he'd been doing. No fucking way. And if that's the case, he shouldn't be managing. Like, Cash should not be the manager of the team if he's not going to actually manage the team. Don't call him a manager. Call him a babysitter, because that's all he is if he's just fucking listening to the GM. So Dodgers win. No fucking surprise. You could see that coming a mile away. The thing that people have been talking about is Justin Turner. You know, the heartbeat of the club, as he's been described. Big dumb beard. It's not dumb. It's very well kept. It gets yanked in the 7th inning because apparently he has tested positive for the Rona. All right, well, this leads to a bevy of questions, which is how and why is he playing? Now, the story goes is that around the 2nd inning, they got an inconclusive result. They tested the sample again, came back positive. The thing that I don't get is what the fuck are these guys doing waiting to test these guys so that they're not done until the 2nd inning of the game. Like, you can't have these fucking kids come in 15, 20 minutes earlier, get tested, and then fire that shit up and get it moving. They've been pretty good for the last few weeks. No positive results, and now here it is, the 7th inning of the fucking deciding game of the World Series, potentially deciding game of the World Series, and this guy is a positive test. So, got to pull him out. Out he goes into isolation. Hey, that's awesome. Dodgers win. What happens next? Well, Justin Turner comes out. He is disobeyed, according to MLB, disobeyed Major League Baseball's wishes. Out he comes. Uh, Celebrates with his team, with his wife, sticking his tongue down his wife's throat. Hanging out with Dave Roberts, who's, a cancer survivor. No big deal. Yeah, no, you don't need the mask. Mookie Betts is like, fuck that shit. We want him out here. He's a part of the team. Yada yada yada. Now look, there are two distinct sides to this thing. One, horrifically irresponsible move on his part, and nothing I say here is any different than what you've probably already heard, but it needs to be said. Horrifically irresponsible. And then also irresponsible for Major League Baseball to not enforce this a little bit more. There has to be more people from MLB that are down there in the clubhouse or near the clubhouse or wherever the fuck he is to make sure that he doesn't come out. But apparently that was not part of the deal. So out he comes, and the argument that I've heard is that, look, this is a big moment for him. This is a big moment for the team. They've had an exhaustively long 32-year wait. Ooh, shut the fuck up. Like, I give a shit about the Dodgers and how long they've waited to win. 32 years, please. But you can see both sides of it, can't you? You can see that he wants to come out and celebrate with his team. It's a big moment for him and his teammates. I get it. I get it. And that's the part that sucks. But at the same time, he's being incredibly selfish. And this is why this fucking thing is never going away, folks. It's never going away because it's just horrifically irresponsible behavior on so many different levels. And this is just a prime example of it. Major League Baseball fucking pushed and pushed and pushed to make sure that they finished this season. Fucking pandemic be damned. We're going to get through this. We're going to show you a mediocre World Series. Well, actually, I already said it was a good series, but I'm a baseball fan, so what can you do? But we're going to push and push and push to try to get this through. And we don't give a fuck about any of the consequences. Like the PR hit, what does it matter? I mean, lucky for Kevin Cash, this happened because now nobody can say that Kevin Cash is a fucking dummy. The guy let's say Tampa fires him, he has a job tomorrow. Do I think he's ever gonna, if he has to actually manage? I mean, who the fuck knows? You don't know how he's gonna be if he actually has to manage. Could be anything. He could be great, but you're not gonna know because this particular move has fucking screwed him for the rest of his career. Facts. Anywho, that's my 2 cents on the Dodgers. I could probably go on, but it's not really worth it, is it? Here is a commercial, and then my interview, and then we'll be back to talk about some other nonsense that you probably don't really care about. Rick, what's happening?
Hey, how we doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm good. Sorry, I was
Good.
coming back from the gym and there was some traffic out there, so it took me a little longer than I thought.
What is that a Drew Lock background?
Oh yeah.
What's up with that?
Drew Lock's like my favorite player right now. Ever since I saw him, the rapping Young Jeezy on the sidelines, I really see something in this guy.
All
This
right.
is the kind of quarterback I want on my team.
There you go. That works. All right.
Yeah.
The pod isn't entirely sports centric. It's mostly sports centric, mainly because I don't know anything else and don't know what else to talk about. So with
Same.
that said, it's become quite clear that as sports evolve and as our tastes change, and one of the things that we've talked about on the show, of course, has been gambling. So and how it continues to grow across the country, legalized gambling. The way that we consume and follow sports evolves alongside of it. So what I want to do, let's welcome in my guest, Boston sports aficionado, and the guy who would occasionally approve purchase orders for me, Mr. Rick McNair. Rick, welcome to the show. I appreciate you joining us.
Hey, thank you for having me. I'm here to set the bar really low for future guests.
Love it. See that, Rick, honestly.
We can only go up from here. So,
we set the bar so painfully low on this show. And I keep saying we, I don't know why, but I set the bar painfully low. So thanks for coming on. And also a big thank you to loyal pod listener Dave for getting us connected. Really appreciate it. So Dave loves to hear when I talk about him on the show. So let's talk about Dave briefly and then just end it. So Dave, thank you very much. Appreciate it. All right. So one of the things that I've talked about on the show a bunch of times is sports fandom, and what I'm hoping is to let's talk about your sports fandom. All right. And what I want to know is, give me a singular moment as a kid that made you start to love sports. I know that when we first started talking via text, you sent me that amazing picture of yourself and your dad. So, and that was awesome. So give me just like a starting point for
you. I can't necessarily remember like one particular moment.
Yeah.
But when I was younger, my mom worked nights and I would be with my dad every night and we would just watch the Celtics or the Red Sox. Mostly, I remember watching the Celtics more because I had a little Larry Bird hoop, and as long as I, didn't get in his way too much, didn't cause any trouble, I got to stay up, watch sports. So as a young kid, I don't remember watching a lot of cartoons. Like I
Mhm.
would just mostly watch sports. And then when I got a little bit older, I would wake up like way before school would start and just watch Sports Center like 4 or 5 times.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And as I got older too, my mom would still work nights, and my dad would come home, make us dinner, and he used to kind of play a game with me where like, he'd have Sports Center on, and he would be like, "All right, how many yards did Jerry Rice have? Who had this?" So I was like, just regurgitating all of these stats. It's like
Mhm.
how I learned how to do math. It's how I learned how to do everything.
Yeah.
I didn't watch any cartoons. It was pretty much like sports right from the jump. We were always playing catch, playing basketball. He was young, so he had a hoop out front, and
Yeah.
kids from the neighborhood would come play with him. And
Oh,
he was only
really?
like 26 or 27, so I would go out and watch,
Yeah.
and they were like, "You're too young," and it just drove me crazy. So
Mm.
I just wanted to play all the time.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I was just like hooked on sports from then on. That was
So
pretty much it.
in terms of then, so obviously the Celtics, one of the things that you remember, was there a particular Celtics moment that you can recall that sort of, it sort of ties into what my next question would be your favorite overall sports moment. But again, the Celtics they were synonymous with the 80s. So, I mean, I'm just
Right.
curious if there was anything in particular that jumped out to you. Because I remember vividly uh, going to a cookout with my dad, 1984. So I was 6 years old, and this guy had uh,
All right,
he's-
you're older than me.
yeah.
Perfect. I'm
So
I'm 37, so
there you go. So this guy had his, probably, I don't know, 32-inch TV, rolled outside, and
yeah.
there was all kinds of people just fucking gathered around watching this, and it was a cool moment. So I didn't know if you had anything similar to that sticks out.
I mean, I do remember watching like all of my dad's friends coming over and Lakers Celtics games being on, but like by the time I could remember what was happening,
Mm,
Bird was pretty much like really banged up at that point.
sure.
McHale was always hurt. So the Celtics, like they were still pretty good, all the way up, like with Reggie Lewis, all the way up to like '92.
Mm,
But it wasn't like the same. I've watched tons and tons of games. Actually, in quarantine, I started watching more when there was no sports on. I would YouTube and just watch all these Celtics '80s games.
mm.
I have the Celtics Dynasty DVD, and when I was like 22, 23 years old, I had a DVD player in my Maxima, and
Yeah.
I would ride around and that was like one of the things I would watch. People were
Yeah.
like, like unbelievable.
Oh, that's
So
awesome.
yeah, I don't know if there was. I mean, there's some. So a lot of people don't believe me when I tell them this story, but we had just moved. My parents and I, like my family, we just moved into a new house.
Mm,
I was like 5 years old, I think, going on 6, and my dad was like painting in the kitchen, and we didn't have any furniture really set up yet. The TV was set up, and I was just like sitting on a box watching the Bulls Cavs game 5
mm.
when Jordan hit the shot.
Yeah.
And I remember like Elo hit a layup and gave them the lead. And I came in and told my dad, and he's like, "Oh, this game's over. There's only like 2 or 3 seconds left." And then Jordan got the ball, hits that iconic shot, and I came running in to tell him, and he's like, "No way!" And he comes in, he's like, "Holy shit, that actually happened." So I tell people that my dad, like the other day we were playing golf, I brought it up, and he's like, "Oh yeah, no, I remember that."
No,
So
that's awesome.
a lot of people don't. They're just like, "Yeah, sure, yeah, you were 5 years old and you remember that." And I'm like, I just remember I was obsessed with Jordan because I was like,
Oh, sure. Yeah.
you remember when that was when all of a sudden like sneakers became popular and like athletes were getting marketable or being marketable, and like
Mhm.
those were the people that you saw on TV all the time. That was like what was happening in the early '90s was all these like iconic basketball players were on TV, along
Yeah.
with like some of the other sports with like Bo Jackson, Deion Sanders, those guys.
And I think
Um,
that's like, honestly, that Michael Jordan really, the way that people and the public looked at athletes, I think really started with him, and the way that it just took off at that point, like you said, where they became more marketable. Obviously, you saw, Larry Bird was in commercials, but most of those were, local.
Right.
One of my things that I had done not too long ago actually was spent some time on YouTube looking at really old, shitty Larry Bird local commercials where he's like, pitching cars for some dumpy
Oh, that's
used
great.
car dealer in Malden or some shit. So, but I mean, it was
Uh,
funny. I mean, and you didn't see. But when Jordan, I mean, obviously, you remember like the Jordan and Bird McDonald's commercials where they
yep.
would, yeah, I mean, those were massive. Those were
Oh
crazy.
yeah. Yeah.
So, and it sort of changed the way that people kind of looked at sports. So another thing that I was kind of hoping to get into with you was how how you view sports now. So I mean, obviously you could talk about when you're a kid and it's just that sort of that real attachment. Again, like you'd
Yeah.
be up at all hours watching all kinds of shit. But in
Yeah.
terms of like things now as an adult, how do you look at sports now? What's your relationship with sports currently?
Yeah. I mean, I guess that's an interesting question because um, it kind of depends on like what's going on that week too,
Yeah.
like what's going on that day, what game I'm watching.
Mhm.
Sometimes I'm watching a game and I'm not really watching it for the purity of the sport or anything like that, but
Mhm.
a lot of times there's financial implications that you're
Implications,
watching it,
of course.
right? So
Mhm.
you're watching Georgia State versus Georgia Southern, and you're like, it kind of it's a little more
Riveting.
interesting, yeah. Well, watching a late Pac-10 over,
Yeah.
Pac-12 over.
You stayed up, watched second half Hawaii because you had such a shitty day.
Right, right. But if you even like removing all of that, like the
Yeah.
gambling aspect of it, that most adults kind of morph into that at some point where
Mhm.
they're involved in some form of gambling when they're watching games, and that's
Yeah.
what makes it a lot more interesting. But
Mhm.
before I really like got involved in that, I was starting to kind of branch away from like when I was younger, I was really like diehard Boston sports.
Mhm.
So like, I remember like the '07 Super Bowl. I was just had the worst week ever after that. It's
Mhm.
wintertime, 2 degrees out. The Pats just blew their perfect season. It was brutal. Like life couldn't be any worse,
Yeah.
at
Yeah.
that point. And
Yeah.
then as you get older and like I don't know if it's the fact that like we won more or you just saw like you're older and I've watched so many games, like that's all I watch is games. So you're just like somebody's got to win, somebody's got to lose, and like there's going to be another game tomorrow, so you
Mhm.
kind of just brush it off.
Yeah.
And then like there's life is going on too, where you got bills and responsibility, and you're just like, at
Mhm.
least sports isn't like that big of a deal.
Do you
And then
think
they take it
it's
away, right? Well, then they
Oh,
take
yeah,
it away,
exactly.
and
Then they
then
took it
you're
away. Jeez. Absolutely.
like, right.
Do you think it had, especially around here, and like you made a good point. I mean, did the fact that we had a 20-year run here where every team was for the most part at one point or another there was one team that was the best team in the sport. Do you think that has something to do with any particular kind of current apathy that we
Yeah.
might have around here?
I mean, I know for me personally, I'm not as upset when we lose because of all that. I mean,
Exactly.
you lived the same thing that I lived, where like the Celtics were good in the '80s, but that was the only team that Boston had that was any good, and all those guys were old and done by the '90s, and the '90s were tough to deal with. The early '90s Celtics were terrible, as
Oh,
like the Garden was going
yeah.
away.
Hmm.
We can talk about the Garden too. My first experience there, that was an interesting one.
Oh, there you go.
But
Yeah,
I don't know if you remember the Garden back in the '80s or '90s, but it was
absolutely.
not a place
Shithole.
for 5, 6-year-old kids.
No, absolutely
And
not. Five it
right,
wasn't really a place for anybody, to be honest with you.
no,
The place was such
no,
a dump.
you're
I
right.
sneakily some of my favorite sports teams ever were those early '90s, like horrifically bad Celtics teams with Sherman Douglas and like Dino Raja is one of my
Oh,
all
Dino
time.
Raja,
He's one of my
yeah,
all time favorite players. I absolutely loved Dino Raja. Hall of Famer Dino Raja, mind you. Don't let anybody besmirch that man's
that's
name.
right, right.
Yeah.
Well, because
Uh,
he had played on the Russian team in '88, and then I think he played for I don't know if it was like Croatia
yeah.
once
Yeah.
the USSR broke up.
And he was a
Like
coach too.
coach,
He was a
yeah,
coach for a while. But interesting. But yeah, those teams were just ghastly. They were terrible.
yeah,
They would
Rick
purposely.
Fox was the captain. They had like
Yeah.
Brian Shaw, D.
Mhm.
Brown, Kevin
Kevin
underrated
Gamble.
Celtic, Kevin Gamble.
That's right. Absolutely.
60% from the field, lead the league in field goal percentage,
Yeah.
and he was a jump shooter.
Mhm.
That was like one of the first like great shooters that I was like in awe of. You know,
Yeah.
I just couldn't believe he was automatic. Reggie Lewis was like that too. Like
Yeah,
the
I
game
know.
was just so
Jeez.
much different. The way they were like so automatic from like 15 to 18 feet.
Mhm.
It was definitely a different game.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. It was more interesting. And it kind of ties into uh, the World Series from last night, where it is such a analytically driven event. Every sport is like that now.
Right.
I mean,
Taking
last
Snell
night,
out.
taking Snell out last night, it's an unforgivable sin to me, because I don't care how many times he went. He had struck out, what was it, 9? So he faced 18 batters, struck out 9 of them. The next 3 guys in the Dodgers order were 0 for 6 with 6 Ks, and Cash takes him out of the game after a single. And to me, it
Right.
just doesn't make any fucking sense. You can't take your ace out of the game in a must-win game in the 6th inning. It just didn't make any sense to me whatsoever. But that's how he had been running his team the entire season. So they wouldn't have been there
Right.
had they not. But it just sort of ties into going back to the NBA, where, like you said, the 15 to 18-foot game, gone.
Right. And it's absolutely gone. But
Yeah.
going back to Snell, when you look at that situation, so I guess like Mookie has been terrible against lefties all year,
Hmm.
and he's been great against righties, especially hard throwing fastball pitching righties who
Mhm.
aren't going to come in and throw any junk.
Right.
And he was 0 for 2 against Snell, and like Snell had only given up 2 hits. You know,
Mhm.
was there like one guy on at that point?
Yep. One
And
guy.
and then you have a pass ball, right? And I mean, it was just a nightmare of scenario. It was the worst case scenario for Cash. I mean, I
Oh,
felt
absolutely.
a little bad for him, but I do think I believe in the analytics too, because
Mhm.
numbers don't lie and math is a fact. It's not like a disputable thing, you know, but to a certain degree, there's like, you know, it's like the Patriots, so they have situational football. Like there's situations where, like even there, like the math would tell you, like maybe we wait till the next batter to take him out. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Because
Yep.
of his record against Mookie recently. But
Mhm.
I mean, yeah, that's tough. It's interesting to see all of these managers just taking pictures in and out based on all of the stats. Because you almost wonder like how much are they like managing, and are they just kind of puppets getting
I mean,
pulled on from like the front office, you know?
that's pretty much it. And it kind of, like, you sort of tying it back to the NBA, where, Mike D'Antoni and his Rockets teams they were doing for the longest time, just shooting threes. They would shoot 40 to 53 pointers a night, an absurd amount, and win, but it wasn't sustainable. Mainly he's playing 7 guys, 8 guys, and had no
Right.
bench. But, so I mean, the analytics, I think, is really taking some of the, I don't want to say the soul out of sports, because that's fucking stupid. But it's
At
eliminating the
times it feels
humans.
like that. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, but it's eliminating the human side to it in some way.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I guess like it takes whatever intuition a manager or a coach has. It removes some of that
Yeah.
and more at certain times than others. You
Mhm.
know. But yeah, there's not. I don't know. It's a lot different than how it was back in the day. I mean, you look at 2003 when Grady Little he left Pedro in,
Mhm.
and the guy was like clearly worn down and
Gassed.
shouldn't have stayed in the game. He
Right.
wasn't even really fighting to stay
No.
in the game.
At all.
He was like okay with coming out, and that's a super competitive guy. That's like
Yeah.
a super confident guy, and they
Right.
left him in. And now you like fast forward to 2020, and this left-hander has electric stuff, his best stuff all year, and has given up 2 hits, and they yank him.
And they yank him. Yep.
Like it's not like it was like the middle of the season either, where
Mhm.
like you're gonna pitch count. Like it's game 6. What are you doing to?
You have to win.
Right.
You have to win, or your season is over.
Like you're getting more out of this guy tonight than you have since he was the Cy Young winner.
Right.
And it wasn't like it was he pitched pretty well the last game, or
Yeah.
one of the games. I forget which one. I think there was one where he didn't pitch well, and then another one where he was better. But they were commenting on his stuff. The catcher was talking to a reporter during the game about his stuff, and he's like, "This is the best stuff he's had in years."
Yeah.
You know, like just from
Apparently,
that trumps the stats at that point.
oh, it
Like,
should. You would think, right?
like there's some eyeball testing there. You got to just kind of roll with your intuition.
Yeah, or there's
instinct.
the guy who's catching his pitching tells you, this is the best stuff he's had in a long time. There's no reason to take him out of the game. But again, you didn't really see the catcher chime in at all when Cash came out. It was a very sort of quick hook. Didn't and my guess is that Snell knew the minute he gave up that hit that he was going to get yanked.
Oh yeah, he looked over, he saw them. He wasn't too happy about it, but
I can't imagine he would be. No. But all right.
That was brutal.
So another thing that you'd mentioned the other day when we were texting was that occasionally now you have to root against your favorite team for whatever reasons. But I'm curious if you can actually remember the first time that you did, and if there was some sort of internal strife, if you will, about having to do so.
Yeah, this was one of the tougher times when I remember this was it was a Red Sox Yankees game. It was in 2018, and my grandfather was visiting me, and we were at the game. And he usually comes up every year. This year he couldn't, obviously, but he comes up, and I get tickets, and we go to a couple games, and he's thrilled about it. We've been doing it for years, so the Red Sox are down 5-1 going into the ninth, and then some magical way they start coming back on Chapman. But there was like I think if the Yankees won, there was like a $6,000 swing involved in my financials in that game.
Yeah.
It wasn't necessarily like it was more just gonna like hurt my bottom line, not my actual bank account. Like, I wanted somebody else I wanted the Yankees to win. A friend of ours, actually, Dave. Yeah, he had the Yankees, shockingly.
Oh, you don't say.
Yeah.
Wow.
Some people might know. One of the 5 listeners.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
He was also at the game, and I wanted him to win some back, just to make life easier for everyone. And then, the Yankees blew the lead. The Red Sox come back in dramatic fashion. And my grandfather was just like, that was the best game I've ever been to. And I was just so conflicted because it was like, this is my grandfather's 80 years old.
Your grandfather's happy? Yeah, your grandfather's happy.
Yeah, I don't know how many more of these games that, he and I are going to be able to go to. And he was just beyond thrilled that he got not only to see a Yankees game, but a great comeback. And, I'm thinking like, oh, man, it's like, I don't know. There's a lot of money involved in this one.
Yeah.
So that was the first time. That was definitely the first time. And that 2018 run was conflicting for me because, I texted my grandfather during Patriots and Red Sox games, and there's times where I got to root against them and I have to pretend that, hopefully he doesn't listen to this.
There you go. Oh, well, hey, if he does, I'd be thrilled, but we'll see. It's funny because there's been a couple. I shouldn't even say that. I bet against the Red Sox pretty much every night this year because, one, they were terrible, and two, they pissed me off so bad when they got rid of Betts. I was just so angry, so I bet against them. I took them the season under, so I was thrilled when that came in.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, I can't. Aside from that, I don't think I've ever. Been. I'm not a good gambler, so I don't typically. I bet way more with my heart than my head, and that's why I'm not very good. But at the same time, I don't think. Other than that, I don't think I had ever really done it before. But believe me, I was thrilled betting against the Red Sox. I think I watched the Red Sox more this year than I did probably last year, just because I wanted to see them lose.
Yeah. Right.
and it was a
Yeah.
blast. I thoroughly
I
enjoyed that.
I definitely bet against them a few times this year.
Oh
They
man,
started to win a couple games at the end
at
of
the
the
end, I
season
got
there.
so
Yeah.
fucking nervous. I was like, "You got to
Yeah.
be kidding me!" If they end up pulling this out, I would have been pissed.
Right. Like, what's
But
going on here?
I had a couple drinks the other day with a friend of mine who worked with us at one point, and he mentioned to me that you're an excellent basketball player. And so I said, okay, I'll be sure to mention that to him and say that I'm sure you'll be thrilled to hear that. But now, did you play basketball like in high school or in college? You play football in high school or anything like that? I'm just kind of curious.
I played football and basketball in high school. I played that all growing up. I played baseball till I was about 11 or 12. Broke my elbow throwing
Ooh.
too many curveballs.
Oh no.
Yeah. If you're 11 and you're just snapping off curves every
No.
pitch,
Yeah, you're screwed. That's
yeah.
not going to work.
So
Yikes.
I ended up kind of moving away from baseball and just playing football and basketball. I played quarterback and safety in high school. Very undersized. I was not very big as a senior. I was only like 5'6", 130, and I was only
Holy smokes.
17 years old. I was so I was like I should have been a grade below me, but I started school a little early.
Oh, okay.
I blame my mom for that. I was like, you wanted me out of the house, didn't you? She's like, no, she's like, you used to beg me to go to school. I'm like, I was 5 years old. I don't know what the hell I'm talking about. You couldn't listen to me. I was crazy. What are you doing? She's like, you should chase the bus down the street all the time. I'm like, that does not sound like me. You're making this sound. That's a bunch of bullshit.
Yeah, there you go. So,
but
right.
yeah, played basketball in high school. But I was like, our team was really good. We were like 18-2, and I didn't even start on our team.
Oh, wow.
And then I went to college in Florida at Lynn University, and that whole summer so my family moved to Florida too. So I just spent like that whole summer playing basketball. I didn't know anybody, and I would just either go play by myself or I'd go try and play pickup somewhere. And, I didn't know anybody. So it was like hard to even get picked on a team or to have people even pass you the ball. And I was like getting better, but I was growing too. Like I grew like 4 inches over that summer. Not that I'm like big now, but I went from like 5'5" or 5'6" to like 5'9", 5'10". So, 5'9" if you're like measuring me with no shoes, 5'10" if you're looking at my Hinge profile.
There you go. Smart.
Yeah,
Cool.
But so I got a lot better, and I remember coming back to Massachusetts and playing, and like the first time I went to one of the open gyms and played with everyone from high school again, they were still kind of like leaving me open, and like my team just ran everybody off the court all day, and they were like, what the hell happened to you down there? So I just got a lot better, and I played a lot, and then I just kept playing. I kept getting better, and then by the time I was like 30, I like quit smoking and drinking and everything, and I got in much better shape, and I was able to continue to play into my 30s. So I haven't played since February now, so I'm a little worried about getting back on the court here.
Rusty.
I might just retire and stick to golf. So
good idea. That could be a good idea. Yeah. You play a lot of golf?
I did this year so far.
It's funny. I did too, and being unemployed lets me play a shitload of golf. Yeah. So
nice. That's great.
It's still terrible, and I curse that fucking sport nonstop. But at the same time, I thoroughly enjoy it. Love it.
Yeah. There's nothing better than getting out there when it's nice and warm and just throwing your phone in the bag and going off the grid.
There you go. One of the things that I do on my show with me and a couple degenerate buddies of mine is we have a best bet feature. Of the three of us, I'm currently in dead last. The fucking Bills screwed me on Sunday. How they did not cover against the single worst football team I've ever watched in my life, I can't figure out. So
I couldn't. I watched. So obviously, I was watching that game because the whole world had Buffalo. Now Buffalo didn't cover the teaser though. So,
yeah, well, that's true.
But they were pretty close to not covering the teaser. I think it was like, I think they only need to win by like 4 or 5.
Mm.
But yeah, I mean, that game was ugly, and the Jets had opportunities to kind of like really make it like a close game. And at the end of the half, Darnold throws a pick. It's just like, did you do this on purpose?
Purpose. They
Like,
tell him
I remember watching you play the last few years, and like you weren't this bad, and I feel like you're doing shit on purpose right now.
I don't think he
what
gives
is-
a fuck. Yeah, I think he's hoping to get traded. They don't win a game, they trade him, and they take Lawrence. Lawrence decides he's going to stay at fucking Clemson and doesn't want to play for the Jets. But it was a mess. And honestly, the Bills are a fraud team. I'm convinced of that now. If you can't beat the Jets by more than 8 points, I mean, what they do, score one
especially
touchdown.
that team, that the Jets are like historically bad right now.
Yeah,
They're
absolutely. And they're
like
going
one
to
of
get
the-
worse.
Right.
But the thing is, they'll end up beating somebody. They'll get a win, so they're not going to go winless. You know, they'll sneak up on somebody. Someone won't take them serious. It'd be funny as fuck if they beat the Chiefs this weekend. I would die. I don't see that happening.
What's the line on that game?
I saw 17.5 earlier, and honestly, I
Woo.
think that's too low. Too low.
They bump that up.
It should be. It should be.
Where is it in Kansas City or New York?
That's a good question. I'm not sure.
I'll look it up while we're.
This weekend, I like Carolina in the over. That's like probably my best bet. Yeah, 17.5. Good grief.
Woo.
I also like the
Yeah.
Rams too, and the Rams -4. Big fan of that number. And maybe even Seattle. Seattle -3. That seems a little low.
See, like because of COVID, I don't really start looking at these lines too much until like Saturday.
I mean, that makes sense. Yeah.
Like, I just have like kind of, I program myself to wait until we know that something's actually happening.
They're actually going to play. Yeah.
Right.
But I've been on soccer games for the last 2 days, so I'm just
there you go.
I've just been sitting on this thing for the last couple of days. I actually had a good day today for me, so I'm very excited. But listen, Rick, this has been awesome. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. As I've said 1,000 times on my show, anytime I can get people to come on, I am thrilled. So thank you so much. This has been a fun conversation. Hopefully, listen to the show, tell your friends, follow the Instagram page. I think we connected on Instagram today. Oh, and I noticed. So your last Instagram post, taking photos across the city.
Yeah. So I during quarantine, I bought a camera and a bike, and like early on, it was kind of cool. You just ride anywhere because there was like no cars on the road.
Yeah.
So I just went around, just started taking pictures and trying to figure out what the hell I was doing with that camera. I still don't really know, but
so what? Doesn't matter.
Took a bunch, some of them turn out good, some of them don't.
Those are really good. So yeah, kudos, nicely done.
Hey, appreciate it.
Yeah. So awesome, Rick. Thanks again so much, and I'll be sure to thank Dave again for getting us connected.
Yeah, definitely.
Awesome.
You want me back anytime? Let me know.
Oh, will do. Appreciate it. Thanks so much.
All right, man. Have a good week.
You too. Take care. Well, thanks again to Rick McNair for coming on the program. Greatly appreciated. I meant to give him a little bit more grief about the Drew Lock background that he had. It was interesting. Hadn't seen that yet, so nicely done, Rick. It was an interesting conversation. I mean, you could tell that we kind of got into the flow of things, and when we get into the Dodgers, it was very similar to some of the things that I'd brought up earlier. So it kind of tied into the conversation. But it was a good talk. Hope to have him on the show again. And again, as I've said to everybody, if you want to be on the show, let me know. I'd love to have you. Talk about anything you fucking want. It's a good thing about this show. It's about nothing. So we can talk about anything you want. My guest next week, my pal Evan, we're going to talk about all kinds of shit. Some of it you might find interesting. Some of it you might not. We're going to talk about the marijuana game for sure. Evan is a part of a great company called Newt Tools, N-U-T-E, Newt Tools, free plug. And they make some home growing accessories. which is fascinating. Just fascinates the shit out of me. So very cool. We'll probably talk about rugby. Talk about his upbringing as a New Mexican in Australia, which is just a hilarious fucking thing. But getting back to this week's program, it is Thursday, so it is best bet time. Holy fuck, God, I feel like Rob Manfred all stroked out before giving up the MVP award the other night. Ugh, slurring, gross. After last week, Scott Banksley running away with this thing, 5-1-1. So I don't know where he's getting his picks from. He's probably not handicapping these on his own, but I'm fucking with you, Scott, because I know he's going to get a pissy about it. But whatever. And then Jackie Frodley Jr. had the Pats, so he lost. Scott had the Packers, so big win, 5-1-1. Jackie Frodley Jr. now is 3-4. He had the Pats. And yours truly had the Bills. As you heard in that interview with Rick, how the fuck me and everyone else on the planet had the fucking Bills to cover. Apparently, I should have teased them. What can you do? So this week, Scott has the Las Vegas Raiders plus 2.5. Jack tonight has the Panthers -2. Love that pick. I love it. I have the Panthers tonight and the over, which I believe is at 51. So go Panthers. They're playing the Falcons, so I mean, fucking points galore. Should be points galore. And then I have the Colts -2.5. They play the Detroit Lions. Smoke screen team of the week, the Detroit Lions. So Detroit, they should lose because they stink. The Colts should be an elite club, but Phillip Rivers stinks. What possessed them to sign Phil Rivers is beyond me. I can't figure that out. Is he better than Jacoby Brissett? Probably. But is he leaps and bounds better than Jacoby Brissett? No. Could have saved himself some money and just stuck with Brissett. But that's why I'm talking in my cavernous basement, and Frank Reich is coaching the club. But what can you do? Anyways, that'll do it for the show. One of the things I wanted to talk about before I let y'all go. I can't believe I just said y'all. Ugh, God, I hate that fucking word. Y'all. You all. Oh man, gross. The giveaway on Instagram, please go to Complaints Pod. All you have to do is like the post, follow the page, tag 3 friends. You can win a T-shirt. You can win a fucking sweet beanie, some stickers. It's gonna be great. The stuff will be arriving on Monday, so I should hopefully have actual photographic evidence of the prizes up for you on Monday. Trying to build up that Instagram audience. It's really tough to attract people with a show that's literally about nothing, that isn't very entertaining. So you kind of hope that your friends tell their friends, and so on, and so on, and so on. And next thing you know, you're up to 100 followers. But that'll do it. Please tell your friends. Thank you. Take care of yourself. Well, I didn't go through the whole spiel. Fuck. All right, I take that back. Don't take care of yourself. The Twitter page at Complaints Pod, Instagram also at Complaints Pod. I do have a Facebook page, but I don't use it, so fuck Facebook. Do have a YouTube page, which hopefully I'm going to put some stuff up this weekend. Sunday is Bengals Day. It's going to fucking rain here. I've got Skyline chili ready to go. I got some fucking Sam Adams ready to go. That's it. I got the Bengals gear. All fucking, we're ready. We're very excited. Actually, we're not. I don't know how the fuck we're going to watch the game. I really don't fucking know. But we'll figure it out. Might have to watch it on the phone. I was hoping to set the tailgate thing up outside in the backyard, but it might rain. So who knows how that's going to go. But it might have some stuff on the YouTube page. Complaints and observations on YouTube. There's literally nothing else on there except my gluttonous pal Jeff stuffing hot dogs down his face. But if you're into that, check it out. I also have an email address, showmail at complaintsandobservations.com. Go to the website. There's nothing really there. Haven't written a blog in forever. Maybe I'll do one tomorrow, but I doubt it. Um, that's it. That is definitely it now. It's been a fucking hour-long program. I apologize for taking up so much of your fucking time. Thank you very much, as always. Remember, take care of yourself, take care of each other. Godspeed, and ta-ta.